The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website.
Hi everyone. By 2029, all the baby boomers will be 65 years of age and older. Preparing people to work in the field of aging is not only key, but a must-have. Joining us today is Dr. Lindsay Wilkinson. Dr. Wilkinson is an associate professor of gerontology and the graduate program chair in the UNO Department of Gerontology. You'll want to stay tuned.
I'm Doug Joes, host of Live and Learn. The Give to Lincoln Day is coming up on May the 29th. This is a day that you can be involved in some of the philanthropic organizations and other charities in Lincoln. Stay tuned for an interesting discussion of how this operates.
We're all getting older, and we perhaps realize that we don't want to do the upkeep of a house anymore, or we just like to relocate and maybe perhaps move to a senior community where everything is done. Hi, I'm Barb Tyler, and today I'll talk with Deb Ahrens about different ideas for you as you decide on whether a move is for you or not.
Hello everyone, I'm Julie Masters. Gina Ragland is with us today to discuss the role of AARP Nebraska in supporting not only family caregivers, but ensuring that older adults are protected from fraud. You'll want to stay tuned.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie Masters and welcome to Live and Learn. It is a great pleasure to have with us Dr. Lindsay Wilkinson. Dr. Wilkinson is an associate professor of gerontology and she also serves as the graduate program chair for the department. Lindsay, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, and we are certainly pleased that you would take time out of your day to be with us. So, Lindsay, is it all right if I call you Lindsay?
Oh, of course,
I realize
of course.
I just went into that, so my apologies. Lindsay, before we get too far into the interview, could you tell our viewers about yourself, your background, where you're from, your educational background, and why you chose this beautiful state of Nebraska to continue your career?
Yes, so I'm from Rockford, Illinois, a city in northern Illinois, west of Chicago. I attended Loras College in Dubuque, Iowa for my undergraduate studies, and I majored in sociology and psychology there. Then upon graduating from Loras, I went to Purdue University and I obtained a dual title PhD in sociology and gerontology. Then after Purdue, I spent several years in the sociology department at Baylor University before coming to the University of Nebraska, Omaha, and arriving in the gerontology department. And what really drew me to Nebraska was the gerontology department specifically, and just being able to collaborate and work alongside other aging scholars. I saw that as a great opportunity, and a more personal note, I'm from the Midwest obviously, and my husband's family lives in Des Moines, so it's also nice being in closer proximity to them.
Well, certainly as your colleague, we're grateful that you made the decision to come to Nebraska, so thank you.
Yes,
thank you very much. So as a sociologist, gerontologist, actually I'm going to say as a gerontologist / sociologist, and as the graduate program chair, could you tell us what is gerontology, and then what does it take to become a gerontologist?
I think first it's important to recognize that gerontology is an interdisciplinary field of study. It is the study of older adults and also the process of aging. And we look at how people change as they grow older in terms of the biological changes, the psychological changes, and also how they change socially. Just to give you some examples of what a gerontologist might, be interested in from a psychological perspective, we might want to know about the cognitive and mental health of older adults. From a sociological perspective, we might be interested in the family, the parent-adult-child relationship, or other types of intergenerational relationships. And then from a biological perspective, a gerontologist might want to explore dementia or how the brain changes as we age. So there's so much you can do, and in terms of what it takes to become a gerontologist, becoming a gerontologist requires an advanced degree, either a master's degree, a doctoral degree, or both.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So you mentioned the master's degree. And one of the first degrees that the university offered was the Master of Arts in Social Gerontology. That name has since been changed a little, so now it's a master's degree in gerontology. I suspect a few of the Live and Learn viewers also hold this degree, or did hold the degree. Just wondering, tell us about the graduate programming through the university, because now it really spans a lot of different levels and dimensions. How are courses delivered, and where can people pursue this education?
Sure, so we have three main options for graduate study. We have the graduate certificate in gerontology, the master's degree in gerontology, and then the doctoral degree in gerontology. And I'll go into each of those just briefly here. So the graduate certificate in gerontology is 18 credit hours, 15 credit hours are from courses, and then there are 3 credit hours from a practicum experience. Then we have the master's degree in gerontology, and that has 2 options. You can do a thesis option or a non-thesis option. And so the thesis option, as the name would suggest, involves completing a thesis, which would give students more research experience, whereas the non-thesis option, instead of completing a thesis, you would do a practicum course, which gives you hands-on experience in an aging-related setting. So students have those 2 options. And both our graduate certificate in gerontology and our master's degree in gerontology can be completed either online or in person. And then we have the I forgot to mention that the master's degree is 36 credit hours. So, and if you complete the graduate certificate first with those 18 credit hours, you can carry them over into the master's degree if you want to continue on in the program.
It's an elegant transition.
It's really wonderful. And then, of course, we have the doctoral degree in gerontology, as I mentioned, which is 90 credit hours, and that involves completing a dissertation. And then I'll mention briefly that we also have some dual degree programming. So we have dual degree programs between gerontology and law, and also gerontology and public administration. And that involves completing 2 degrees simultaneously in essentially less time that it would take that if you were to pursue those separately. And then in terms of the course modalities that you mentioned, how we deliver our courses, we have courses that are entirely in person. We also have online courses. Some of those courses are fully online, where you are totally online and completing the course asynchronously. Other courses are what we refer to as fully remote. So you are online, you're meeting virtually at scheduled times. And what's great too is that with some courses, if you're interested in a particular course, we will oftentimes alternate the modality. So I teach a course on the sociology of aging, and one year I may teach that in person, and the next year I may teach that online. So you can always hopefully catch our courses when it's convenient for you. So there's a lot of flexibility.
I should mention for our viewers that the comments that I've heard from students about your teaching are just off the charts in a very positive way. You really bring an enthusiasm. Anyone that can get people excited about research methods and statistics clearly is a gifted teacher.
Oh, that's so kind of you.
So, Lindsay, I'm curious, are people taking courses, when they take them in person, can they take them on both campuses, so Omaha and Lincoln?
They can.
Okay.
So we have classes on both the Omaha and the Lincoln campus. So if you are local to Lincoln, you can take an in-person class and not have to leave Lincoln.
Excellent.
So there's a lot of flexibility there as well.
So it's, when I think about the students that have gone through the program at the different levels, what are you finding are some of the positions that they end up pursuing?
I would say that because of the interdisciplinarity of gerontology, our graduates can enter a wide variety of positions. In fact, anyone who regularly engages with older adults in their job would benefit from an education in gerontology. This includes healthcare providers or social workers, for example, who could earn a graduate certificate in gerontology, or perhaps a master's degree in gerontology to supplement their other training and increase their knowledge of older adults in the aging process. In addition, our graduates could enter administrative and managerial positions, helping to manage and lead aging programs or other services. I'm thinking, for example, our graduates would be well suited to be an administrator in a state unit on aging, or serve as a care manager for an area agency on aging, or as a care consultant in a private home health agency. Our graduates can also gain positions in nonprofits like AARP and the Alzheimer's Association. And our graduates could look to long-term care administration for roles in assisted living or skilled living facilities. And let me just add, if obtaining a doctoral degree, they could seek research positions or positions in university or college settings.
Excellent. Wow. It's just really anybody that studies gerontology, the world really is their oyster, if you think about it. So earlier you had mentioned about the dual programming. Could you give us just a little more insight about those dual degrees?
Yes, so we have, our newest program is a dual degree program between gerontology and public administration. The master's degree in gerontology is normally 36 credit hours. The Master of Public Administration degree is normally 39 credit hours. So add that together, you're usually looking at 75 credit hours. But with this new dual degree program, you can pursue both degrees, earn both simultaneously by following a 57 credit hour plan of study. So both degrees, as I was mentioning earlier, you can complete both in less time than it would take if you were to pursue them independently. And this option in particular may be of interest to people who want that specialized knowledge of aging, but they also want those management skills like budgeting to help lead or manage aging programs or organizations.
And in addition to that dual degree, there is also the relationship with the University of Nebraska College of Law, and I believe it was the first program in the Big Ten to offer that dual degree.
Yes, you can pursue, we've got 3 options there. You can do the JD and the master's degree, the JD and the graduate certificate in gerontology, and then the Master of Legal Studies and the master degree in gerontology.
Which is wonderful,
Yeah.
particularly with an aging population. So, Lindsay, as the academic year winds down, what have been some of the good things that have happened to you as an educator, as a researcher, as a member of the community?
I would, first say that, the past year I have had quite a bit to be grateful for. It's incredibly rewarding as an instructor and mentor to see all the good work that my students are doing. I was also honored to be named a fellow of the Gerontological Society of America, which is a professional organization for gerontologists, and received a named professorship, the Leo Massini Professorship of Gerontology, so that was a great honor as well. And then, in terms of the community, I recently joined a board of directors for a local retirement center, and so I'm looking forward to the opportunity to contribute to the community in that way.
I suspect, again, some of our viewers were acquainted with Dr. Massini. Maybe had taken a course with him or two as part of their master's degree, and I think they would be pleased to see that you and Dr. Beadle carry that named professorship. So a final question that I ask our guests in the probably 30 seconds or so that we have left. What gives you hope?
My students. I see their intellectual curiosity, their hard work and determination, their dedication, the care and compassion that they show for older adults, and that gives me hope. It gives me hope that future generations will continue to support older adults and to work toward improving the lives of older adults, both in the short and the long term.
That's a beautiful answer. Dr. Wilkinson, we just can't thank you enough for being part of Live and Learn and providing us insight into the graduate programming. Just so very grateful. And to our viewers, remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
My kid has been asking for this hot new gaming thing, and I was like, okay, he had a birthday coming up anyway. So I finally find the video game online, in stock. Thing is, it was from this shoddy website full of typos. That's when I remembered a tip I got from the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Bogus website, this is a shopping scam. Got us matching t-shirts instead.
Recognize fraud sooner,
He loves his.
so your money lives longer. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
Welcome to Live and Learn. A major fundraiser for charitable organizations in Lincoln and Lancaster County each year is the Give to Lincoln Day. I'm Doug Jose, and I'm pleased today to have as my guest Sandy Hansen, who's Vice President for Philanthropic Services for the Lincoln community. Tell us a little bit, first of all, tell us a little bit about your work. You're part of the organization.
Wonderful, yes. Well, thank you for having me, Doug. I appreciate it. So I've been at the Lincoln Community Foundation for just a little over 2 years, and I run all of our philanthropy services, which is really all of the money in the door. So our team works directly with donors and individuals and corporate foundations and individual foundations to plan their philanthropy and hopefully have it impact our community right here in Lincoln and Lancaster County.
I mentioned this is a one-day big Give to Lincoln Day, but tell us a little bit more about the Lincoln Community Foundation throughout the year. What is it involved with, and what is its sort of mode of operation?
Sure. Well, let me tell you, we were founded in 1955 with really the concept of bringing philanthropy to Lincoln and Lancaster County in perpetuity. So before the community foundations were around, philanthropy was really driven through trusts, and it was kind of restrictive because the donor was deceased by then, and so their wishes were brought on in perpetuity. But a community foundation is guided by a living board, and so we can really be more reactive and more timely in what the community needs are. So the Lincoln Community Foundation really is established to work with our nonprofit network here in Lincoln and Lancaster County, and also funders. And we want everybody to be a philanthropist, and so that's why Give to Lincoln Day is so important, because it's such a low barrier of entry for people to be charitable here in our community.
Give to Lincoln Day is carried out in a number, the concept is carried out in a number of communities. It's sort of a focus or one day of giving. How did it start in Lincoln?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a fun story. In 2011, our former executive director, Barb Bartles, and some of our team members had gone to a conference, and we learned that there were some giving days being started around the country. And only a few had been going at that point, but I know Minneapolis was successful. And they got really energized about it. And our board that year decided, well, let's not wait, let's do it. And so in 2012, we launched our first Give to Lincoln Day. We had, I think, maybe a couple $100,000 in match funds. It was pretty small, maybe not, I don't know if it was even that high. But we raised $1 million, like $1.2 million that first year. Wow, we had 150 organizations participate. That was in 2012. So fast forward, last year, 2024, we had 468 organizations participate. We raised $8.5 million. And this all stays right here in our community. We just could not be prouder.
And I mentioned Lincoln and Lancaster County. I think it's important to point out that this isn't the city, but it's organizations that are involved in the whole county, correct?
That's absolutely correct. So the way you qualify to participate in Give to Lincoln Day is that you need to be a nonprofit in good standing, and you need to have programming that happens here in Lincoln and Lancaster County. And then you need to be registered with the Lincoln Community Foundation by April 28th, and you can participate. So what that means is that historically we have asked people to have their headquarters here in Lincoln and Lancaster, but now we've got organizations whose headquarters might be outside of the state or the county.
Okay.
But their programming affects our residents here in Lancaster County, and so that's opened up more. In fact, that's probably why we're seeing an increase in our numbers of nonprofits, because we've opened up the qualifications a bit.
Now, you mentioned the amount that was raised last year. I think one of the key things we need to talk about is the matching fund.
Yes.
How does that come about, and explain how that works?
Well, we're really proud. It's actually, we're kind of unique. We feel like we're a bit of a unicorn. Most Give days around the country don't have a match component, and most Give days are only online. And so we're really excited that in Lincoln, we now offer for 2025, we raised $650,000 in matching dollars. So those dollars come from individuals, corporate sponsors, and actually we had an individual who passed away last year who left a pretty significant estate gift to our match fund. And so for the next 10 years, we will have a sizable contribution from that benefactor benefit the match fund for Give to Lincoln Day.
So it's partly you solicit matching funds, but partly if it's people taking the initiative themselves that they want to provide this challenge.
Absolutely, absolutely. Lincoln loves matches, and our donors just absolutely love providing that because it inspires other people to give.
And so then if I donate, let's say I donate $100 to an organization, how does that matching fund come into effect?
So our match fund works this way. If your organization participates in Give to Lincoln Day, it's a percentage match. So if, let's say, your Capital Humane Society, the Capital Humane Society raises 6% of the overall dollars raised on Give to Lincoln, then they get 6% of the match fund.
Okay.
So it's a proportional match. So if you raise 18% of all of the funds on Give to Lincoln Day, you would get 18% of that match fund. So it's a proportional match is how it works. So everybody gets a slice.
So the point is that it's a way to enhance your contribution on that particular day as opposed to giving to the organization maybe some other time during the year.
That's absolutely right, Doug. We encourage our donors, if they are going to support their nonprofit in the springtime or after tax day, we say wait till May, because any contribution between May 1st and May 29th will qualify for those match dollars.
You mentioned online, but so let's get into that. How can people contribute?
Well, we're really inclusive. Again, this is what makes Lincoln Community Foundation really unique in our Give Day, that we are not only an online, but we do encourage people to go online. It's the best way to find who's participating. So go to givetolincoln.com, and that will have all of the registered nonprofits that you can find. So you can find it by name or you can find it by category. And yeah, so then you can give online, you can give a check, you can walk a check into us, you can mail a check into us. We also offer gifts through donor-advised funds. You can have a donor-advised fund with the Lincoln Community Foundation, or if it's with any other financial organization like a Schwab or Fidelity, we do take gifts through donor-advised funds. And then one of the more complicated gifts, but we do love to talk about them, are qualified charitable distributions through people's IRAs. It's a great way to be charitable. It's a little bit more complex, so we ask people to give us a call if they have questions, and we're happy to walk them through that.
So if you go online, you're donating via a credit card?
Yes, online will be credit card only. And so if you are interested in any other form of gift, I would encourage you to call or stop into our office.
But one thing about that I'd like to mention is that you like people to contribute a little more. Say if it's $100, then it's going to cost you a certain amount to
process that.
To process that. So if you want to make sure your $100 gets your organization, you like to have the additional amount to cover the processing, correct?
You certainly can.
Maybe you can explain a little bit about that.
Absolutely. If you go online to givetolincoln.com and you choose to participate and give a gift to a charitable organization, there is I think a 3% charge on all credit card transactions, and so you have the option to cover those charges. So that way the Lincoln Community Foundation doesn't get stuck paying those fees, and it doesn't come out of your charitable gift.
One thing maybe we talk about a little bit is how do you decide among all these 400 and so on organizations you'd like to contribute to? I suppose it starts with deciding what your legacy wants to be.
That's absolutely right. Doug, what a great question. You know, we at the Lincoln Community Foundation really believe in values-based philanthropy. And so, you know, when people say, what should I give to? The first thing I ask is, well, what's important to you? What's passionate to you? And, you know, a lot of people start with organizations that they have volunteered with in the past, you know, just organizations or even areas of interest that speak to them personally. So that's usually where we start, is what's really important to the donor.
Have you had examples of where people have maybe given a donation to Give to Lincoln Day, and then in the future they decide they want to do something more than that, even maybe towards the matching funds? Do you have?
I do. You must have read my mind. Yes, in fact, I've got several examples, but one, we had a benefactor who really got his philanthropic start through Give to Lincoln Day. He was so energized, really loved the idea of the match, and unfortunately he passed away a year ago, but he was so generous in his estate plans that he left the match fund in his estate. And so, like I mentioned, we are now going to benefit for the next 10 years from his amazing gift that benefits not only the Lincoln Community Foundation, but he's also left 6 other organizations in his estate. So that's just one example. But I'm currently working with a couple who also have really gotten their foray into philanthropy through Give to Lincoln Day. It was a starting point for them, and now they are starting what we call field of interest funds. And so after they pass, they will have a fund that supports not just an organization, but many organizations in a field. So again, going back to animal welfare, if you really are interested in animal welfare, you can establish a field of interest fund at the Lincoln Community Foundation that's not just tied to an organization, but to a cause. And so that allows us flexibility, especially in an endowment that's going to sit in perpetuity. If an organization is no longer around in the future, then it allows us the flexibility to direct those dollars to organizations that are still doing great work in that field.
So you're available to visit with people, to discuss in general sort of what philanthropic kinds of activities they'd like to participate in the future?
Absolutely. We have a team. I've got 4 people on my team that are ready and willing to chat with people and to help guide folks in their own philanthropic journey, whether that's here on Give to Lincoln Day or if that's more long-term in their own estate plans.
And let's remind people, the date again is?
It's May 29th. You can give any time between May 1st and May 29th. So get online May 1st. All of the organizations will be listed by April 28th. They will all be listed. So May 1st, you can start contributing at any point. If anyone has any questions, you can just pick up the phone and call anyone at the Lincoln Community Foundation. We also will be at Tower Square on May 29th. That's 13th and P. And we'll have about 45 participating nonprofits there as well. So we welcome you to come down, learn about some of our nonprofits participating. It's great. We'll have puppies and kitties and all kinds of wonderful organizations to chat with.
Sandy, it's been a pleasure to have you visit with us, and thanks for updating us on the Give to Lincoln Day and bringing us up to date on how you operate. I think that's interesting for people to know what the Lincoln Community Foundation does. So.
Absolutely. So, our mission is to really help people give, act, and lead here in this community. And so we are all about helping find what Lincoln really needs, and to help, there's power in numbers. And so the Community Foundation allows different donors, different benefactors to pool their resources to make a bigger splash and a bigger impact in our community. And so, we're just excited. If anybody has any questions about how they can participate, we'd love to hear from you.
Again, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Remember, it's never too late to live and learn about how you can be involved in the philanthropy in Lincoln and Lancaster County.
I was doing some shopping and got a pop-up on my laptop. Computer had a virus. So I called the number on the page, and the guy on the phone wants to take control of my screen to sort it out. Then I remember a tip I got from the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Control my screen. This is a tech support scam. Thankfully, my order still went through.
Recognize fraud sooner so your money lives longer. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
Hi, I'm Barb Tyler, and today I'll be talking with Deb Ahrens as we find out more about what it takes to maybe relocate or downsize in your own home. So Deb, tell our audience a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in home design and how it's changed over the years.
I'm a farm girl, middle of 7 kids, so we were very resourceful. 4-H, all of that. Went to college in interior design here at the University of Nebraska, actually on a 4-H scholarship. So that was quite a resourceful way to get through school. And I worked for a design firm for about 5 years. I was the first intern the University of Nebraska had at Morrow Interiors. And then I got married and moved away and kind of decided to start my own business.
You lived all over Nebraska.
Right, anywhere from Talmadge, Seward, DeWitt, Broken Bow for a while. And so that also, moving around, increased my client base because I knew so many people from different places. So that was kind of a deal. And now I've been independent, oh boy, since 88, and have do everything from floor plans, drawing up basics for new construction, remodeling, and manage the projects and make selections.
Do you see people that are more our age, different, how they want design differently, say older than us, younger than us? Because I know you have a gamut of age. So how does people our age, how do they look at design these days?
Well, first off, it's generational now. I have clients that were my clients' kid or my clients' kids. Yes, I'd say one of the things young people aren't is don't have the desire to own that house with a picket fence like a lot of us growing up did. And so, because they like to travel and do different things, and their tastes are a lot different too because they're more global. But what's interesting, my seniors that I work with are well-traveled and enjoy life a lot. If anything, they have learned to retire and enjoy life, and that's why I think a lot of these senior living center areas are so valuable because everything's there that they need.
Exactly, exactly. So when I say us, we are of a certain age, and we've known each other for a long time. But what should people look for when they start to think about wanting to move? What, for a variety of reasons, whether they want to get rid of the big house, whether they want to relocate to a smaller condominium, whether they want to go to a senior center. What should they start thinking about?
Well, we were just talking about how long we've lived in our homes, and you know, we acquire stuff because we like stuff, and we like a variety of things, and so many people through generations have got things from their parents or people, so there's historically a lot of history in families' possessions. So it's really tough, and of course the young ones don't want any of it. So there's different estate sale companies that can help you scale things down that are online sales, or actually come to your house and do it, or you take it someplace, or you could sell on like Marketplace or Etsy and things like that. But going through making those piles, you know, keep, get rid of, you know, save, whatever, is a tough thing because I'm trying to start that myself. And I think that people then too are looking for more accessible housing, you know, no matter if they stay in their home or if they're going someplace, would be like the bigger doorways for walkers, grab bars in the bathrooms, 0 entries in showers.
Do you see people that are staying in their house making these modifications?
Yes, I've got 3 houses right now. I'm working on the bathrooms, and what's interesting, we put backer for grab bars right away because I always say, no matter if you're 25 having leg surgery or something, but that is really one of the things that I see, like the 0 entry showers and the wider doors. Right now, I'm working on a bathroom that had 24-inch doorways into the bathrooms. Well, that's really little.
I've seen those.
So now we're making bigger doorways, at least to 30, not 36, but 30 you can get a walker through, and then just making sure it's all, you know, can rotate that way, and better lighting, you know, and eliminating area rugs.
And the flooring.
And the flooring is hard
surface. And maybe
surface.
not even area rugs.
Right, yeah, mostly a lot of hard surface, like the LVPs, things like that.
So that's the benefit of staying in your home. You can do that. It's a little inconvenient, I guess, at times, but if they were moving to a new home, building something, they have a lot more options, but of course it's going to cost more too, most likely.
Well, everybody knows that, you know, you might have a house that's worth this much, and it's going to cost you probably more to go to something smaller and new. But if you're going into some of the living facilities, you know, senior living facilities, I have a couple people, they wish they would have realized how far it was going to be to take their dog for a walk, you know. They wish they would have upgraded the carpet. You know, they'll give you a choice of like, say, 5 carpet choices. And now they said, we should have went for the better quality carpet. They would have had to pay for it, but they wish they would have done that. The amount of light coming in and the window coverings and the amount of how the light fixtures, they've changed out their light fixtures. And it's interesting, the kitchens aren't as, you know, important in the senior centers. It's just because you have their meals.
They have meals. For the most part, they have meals, huh?
But they also love the fact that they can take some of their collectibles and things. And so a lot of times I help, you know, gauge and decide what they, you know, want and what they, you know, what they really need and make sure they have the space.
I know you had an aunt that moved into a care community, and she was more on the assisted living side. So, but you helped arrange her things and kind of helped her whittle down what was really important to her. You know, and going back to the kids, they say they don't want it now, but I keep thinking, in my case, I'm hoping that down the road, oh, I wish I would have had it. So I'm not advocating for storage units, but really maybe kind of think that, you know, you want to keep something in the family. Maybe the grandkids would rather, not to the kids.
And that is happening now. I've got a couple people that their grandkids want, because minimalist is kind of
That's
out,
the thing.
and maximalist is back, and people are really liking a little bit more personality.
Are you finding that people our age, older than us, are accepting some of the new colors and design trends, or do they want to go back to what they had at the house? They want to recreate the house.
That's interesting, because colors, I don't believe in trends, because I think that you need to just find what you like and make sure it fits your lifestyle. Because when it comes to furniture, most everybody wants new furniture. Well, for one, a smaller place, they can't fit all their big stuff. So the furniture is definitely smaller. And you know, maybe just a table for 2 instead of a table for 10, you know,
Exactly.
so that type of thing. And it's interesting, because some of them, I'd say most people want to change colors.
That's
Well,
good.
because when I grew up, we painted like every 7 years. I mean, our inside. My mom, we always had a new, you know, paint to freshen it up. Probably because of the old coal furnaces, you know.
Oh, that's true,
And
that's
things
true.
got kind of sooty and stuff. But now, like wallpaper, you know, there for a while, everybody was wallpapering back in the 80s. Well,
It
the
went away.
wallpaper, yep, they went away, and
now it's back.
But some of the people say, well, I remember what a bear it was to get it off. I'm not going to do it again. Well, the new products are phenomenal. I mean, they peel and stick or whatever. It's just the cost of labor is what's going to get you on wall covering. I mean, that is hard, because that's the other thing, finding skilled labor and the handyman thing, you know, is hard.
Handymen are, you know, they're hard to find, and a good one is really hard to find.
Right.
So do you find when people are wanting new furniture, are you helping them decide, okay, so in my case, when I sell a home, I would look for a ranch would have maybe an option for a room to be a bedroom. Or in your case, maybe you help them with furniture that maybe would be a little higher up, easier to get out of, that sort of thing. I suppose that's readily on the market. You could help decide and you shrink as you get older, I should say. So you want something maybe a little higher.
Well, yes, and the same way with toilets. Now the new
Very good.
standard is that the tall, elongated toilet, whereas before it was always just like 14 or
Hurt your
15.
knees.
Now
And the
it's a-
bathtub too.
I have somebody that's keeping their shallow bathtub because they can get into it because they still want to have a bathtub, but that's really shallow. Versus the young ones, they want a bathtub that's this deep. You know, so
Just good grab bars to get out.
that's exactly.
I knew a lady that got stuck in a bathtub one. That was not pleasant. That was not a place she couldn't get out. So yeah, so
But
probably
when you made the comment about as far as preparing, like say for laundry or for a bedroom, I have new construction with young people that we're putting 2 master suites on the first floor because that way it can become a mother-in-law suite or a
caregiver.
nanny suite, you know, that kind of thing. And then that way you have 2 choices of more of that master suite idea and or the caregiver. Because I know somebody that has a nursing student come and stay, and they stay for nothing because they are the ones that kind of make sure and take care of everything. So
I think that's a wise idea. Do you see people? I know I like to work in the yard, not as much as I used to. So are you seeing some of your clients as they age, like us, staying at homes or going to a place that maybe has yard care so they can travel more? What do you look for a yard design that's easy to maintain? Take care of as they
Well,
get
the
older?
townhouse situation or condo, you know, those backs is very, very popular because you don't have to do anything maybe except, you know, right next to your house. You know, so there's that is really a good thing because then that's all included in your package price. And people that going into like say a multi-level unit, and if they really want a garden, Sunken Gardens, they need volunteers all the time. And
That's
so
true,
if somebody
that's true.
wants to go and pull weeds, they have some, you know, they could go do that. But the landscape, I think, is getting a lot, even on new construction, people are being more water conscious. And so their landscape is becoming less maintenance on some.
So do you see-
versus you and me, who like to be out there.
Well, again, I used to like it a lot more. So of course, with the senior communities, you know, they have some package plans and that sort of thing. But we kind of talked about new construction, which I know you help with. Anything else we should touch on at all, as far as people our age thinking about moving? They need to plan ahead. That's probably the biggest thing is plan think what you want to take, what you want to get rid of. This is, if you've got the time and the money, you know, you can sell these things and really have a nice new look.
Yeah, it's kind of getting an exit plan. You know,
that's a good way to put it.
You know, just kind of how you're going to process things and talk with the kids ahead of it. I remember people would take tape and stick on the bottom and say this would go to each kid, and that's still not a bad idea. I remember I had a client that they put everything out on tables and put numbers on it, and then everybody put a number, wrote down the numbers that they wanted, and they'd say, okay, who has this number on their list? And maybe nobody did it, so they got it. So it was interesting because it was a big family, so you could make it kind of a fun thing. And then if there were 4 people that wanted it, then they had to put their numbers and get drawn out who got it. Because not a lot of people are going to have, you know, major stocks, bonds, land, investments, and all stuff. It might be just the fun stuff, you know. And it's interesting to see how people split things up when it comes time.
So you've done this for a while. What's probably the biggest thing that you've noticed in the last 20, 30 years? What's the biggest change that you've noticed?
Change in design or
change in design or attitude about moving? Or
I would say one thing, people are more well-traveled. And so I think so many times they have so many things that they've acquired and purchased on trips, and those are the hardest things that somebody else did go on that trip. So then it's like the value of that is bad because they know what they paid for it. So that's interesting. I see a lot more well-traveled people. I mean, it could be they go to every golf thing, or they might go on a safari. You know,
and you can help them display those mementos, which I think is really important. My son goes to wonderful places, and he doesn't collect anything, whereas I collect everything. But I've also limited what I do now. So
well, and see, the thing is, our generation is just getting used to that camera and the phone. You know, we take a lot of pictures, but I don't think anybody under 30 has a hard copy picture of anything. You know, they take us all on their phone, and so that's the other thing is displaying family photographs is kind of a thing. And I know you as a realtor, when you sell a house, you're supposed to not have any family pictures up.
It's best not to, because you want the person to visualize their own family, but a lot of people do.
Yeah.
No. Well, this was a good conversation. Like I said, it's a changing field. It's something to really consider. And so to you, thank you for tuning in today. Always know that it's never too late to live and learn.
So, I'm playing with the dog, and I get this robocall from the Social Security Administration saying my card had been suspended and I had to call them back immediately. And that's when I remembered a tip from the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Random robocall? This is a Social Security scam.
Recognize fraud sooner,
Robots.
so your money lives longer. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Live and Learn. We are absolutely delighted to have Gina Ragland with us today. Gina is the Associate Director for the Nebraska State AARP office. Gina, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Julie.
Well, we are so delighted to have you here to talk about the 2025 legislative updates, as well as the caregiver resources and support. And then we're going to talk a little bit about fraud. Sound good?
Sounds great. Let's go.
Very good. Well, Gina, one initiative that AARP is focused on is the caregiver tax credit, which has just been a tremendous piece of legislation, and that's LB 937. Do you think you could refresh our viewers about this effort and what has been the outcome?
Sure. So 937 was actually introduced last session. We talked about it the last time I was on Live and Learn. We did get passage of the bill. The governor signed it. It goes into law, or went into law January 1st of this year. And we're happy to say that the Department of Revenue has now opened it up and people can start applying for that. Keeping in mind it's a non-refundable or non-refundable tax credit that is for your 2025 taxes. So you can start filing for it now, but you can't actually claim it until you file your taxes in 2026. Just as a refresher, again, most importantly, there's no age restriction. So I want people to understand, just because AARP is talking about this, it doesn't mean it's a 50 and older. It's anybody you're providing care to that meets the stipulations within the bill. Again, non-refundable, it's up to $3,000, $2,000 for our regular caregivers and those that have dementia or are a veteran. If you're providing care to them with out-of-pocket costs, you can get up to $3,000, which is good because we know sometimes those needs are higher. The other thing I think it's important to keep in mind, you have to have someone that's receiving help with 2 activities of daily living, and so a healthcare provider has to provide that certification. And then there are those income guidelines that we talked about before. You have to be making $50,000 or less as a single person, or up to $100,000 for a couple. So my main message today is it's available and it's out there. If you want more information, I do point you up on the screen. We have our caregiving website. The caregiver tax credit is featured there. The forms are out there that links you to the Department of Revenue. And certainly, I always say if anyone has any questions, they can contact us. So we'd be happy to help walk somebody through that process.
So first of all, congratulations on the effort and making this really come to life. You know, when you think about the future, is there anything else that you would like to see have happen with the tax credit?
Sure, and just more importantly that people understand, this is one very minute part of how we help caregivers, emotionally, financially, those kinds of things. So we are working at the federal level to pass a similar type of legislation that would be for federal. So we're working with our elected officials on that side. From the Nebraska perspective, I think, you know, again, we have a limited amount of money that's available for this, and so first come, first serve, people need to get in and apply for it. I think as we look forward, we would like to expand the qualifications. So if we could open up some of the income guidelines, we hear that a lot, that people maybe make more than that amount so they don't qualify, which doesn't make their care any less important. So again, looking at those kinds of things, I think our biggest thing is we have to make sure that we're spending that fund, because the legislature will look at that every couple of years, and if the fund is sitting there and people aren't using it, that money could go away. So there's lots more to do, and again, this is a small step forward, but it's a huge victory for caregivers, and so again, just trying to make sure people know it's available.
You know, it's extraordinary what AARP does for caregivers. In addition to the tax credit, you do some other things. Are there any points of interest you think would be good for our viewers to hear about? I know we're going to show your web address as an example.
Absolutely, and again, I keep pointing people, you know, not everybody's online. We do have actually a support line that's available to caregivers, and this is, anybody can get this nationally. That number is 877-333-5885. If you're a caregiver or you just need to talk to somebody, you need some kind of support and assistance with that, you can call that number, and we have people that man that support line, whether it's financial, emotional, physical, whether it's needs for the person you're providing care, maybe it's for your own mental and physical or health needs. They can connect you with some either national resources or those local resources. We also have educational presentations that we do, preparing to care, financial planning and workbook type of things. And then we also have a home fit guide, which kind of fits in with caregiving. As we watch people age in place and stay at home, we need their home to be safe. And so how do you make changes and adaptations in your home that, again, fits your home so the person can remain safe? Lastly, we also have online support groups, and we also have a Facebook discussion group, which if you've not joined Facebook and you aren't on that, I encourage you to do it. It's a national group of people that are all coming together as caregivers, having discussions. People put questions out there, and other people provide, you know, well, this worked for me, and here's some ideas of support. And then we also have a resource guide we put together for Nebraska resources that's available. So I just point people to the website, or again, if you have questions or want any of those booklets, we do have those available, and happy to provide those hard copy form and mail them out as well.
That's terrific. Gina, for our viewers, could you just repeat that telephone number, please?
Sure, and this is, again, a toll-free support line for caregiving, 877-333-5885.
Thank you very much. So Gina, in addition to caregiving and the challenges tied to that particular experience, we're also learning about fraud and what fraud, the impact it has on older adults. What are some of the more common forms of fraud experienced by older adults? And then we'll talk a little bit about what AARP is doing.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about fraud and we talk about the targeting of older adults, most of the schemes and the scams are the same. Sometimes the techniques of how they go about scamming somebody is a little bit differently, which we'll again talk about some of the ones that we've been working on here recently. But probably some of the most important ones are the tech support or Microsoft when you're on your computer and a big tech warning pops up and says your computer's being compromised, you need to call this number. And they get people really upset and urgent that if you don't, you're being compromised. Grandparent scam, again, you have a grandchild calling from somewhere and saying, I'm in jail, I need you to post bail or bond for me. And what we're seeing a lot of with that is the artificial intelligence, AI, is kind of starting to feed into there. It's duplicating people's voices, and then those fraudsters can actually use that when they're calling somebody, so it really seems like it's actually the grandchild's voice. We're also seeing lottery scams. Probably the biggest one we see right now for older adults is the romance scams. Again, as we have loneliness and social isolation that continues to play into all of this, sometimes people might be online innocently on a Facebook post and made a comment. Scammers like to get into those posts and they like to pull you in and make comments about how beautiful you are. I saw your profile, I'm lonely and I'd like to make connections. So that's their first bait, and they get people then to engage, and as they start talking, then they keep building that up with those romance scams where eventually they take advantage of them financially. The last couple, government imposter and even utility imposter scams. We had this happen in Omaha with Sheriff Hansen. Someone was actually impostoring him as the sheriff, making phone calls and saying, you have an outstanding warrant. They knew his badge number. They knew everything about him. They knew everything about Douglas County Sheriff's Office. So people really took it and believed that it was true. And I think the gist of all of these, Julie, is that scammers are really good about getting people very worried and uptight and making it seem like it's an absolute urgent matter that they have to resolve this immediately. And so when we all get upset about things, we have to solve it and we want to fix it right now. And so sometimes I think that we don't have a chance to pause before we are taken advantage of.
So thank you so much for providing, I think, a very thorough list of the ways that older adults can be taken advantage of. Now, LB 609 was legislation that was reviewed this session. Can you talk a little bit about this and how this will have a positive impact for Nebraska's aging adults?
Sure. So again, one of our number one priorities right now is working on fraud, not only at the state level, but nationally. And I do want to make point that, many people don't know what crypto ATMs are, but these are things that look like ATM machines that are located in oftentimes grocery stores, or they're available in a gas station, whatever, but they are actually where you're putting money into a machine, whereas an ATM, bank ATM, you're actually taking money out. And so that's the first piece to think about this. But typically, cryptocurrency scams are the second most common payment method for fraud for older adults. I want to throw a number out there. In 2023, the FBI received over 5,500 complaints involving crypto kiosks, but the amount of funds that were stolen was $189 million.
My goodness.
So as we started seeing this, knowing that, again, they're using the same scams, but they're now calling you and saying, I need you to go to this location, to this crypto ATM, using this either QR code, or they'll give them the electronic wallet that they need to deposit the money into. And then people are taking tens of thousands of dollars and putting them into a machine because they think they're trying to resolve an issue of some sort. So what we did is we looked at that. I think the biggest thing in Nebraska, and this is starting to happen nationally, but these machines in the industry was not being licensed and regulated.
Okay.
So the first part of the bill is we actually have licensure and regulation now over them that provides some insight and oversight of that, which the Department of Banking will be overseeing that. Some of the other things that we did with this bill is we implemented daily transaction limits. So new customers, if you're a new customer 14 days or less, you cannot put more than $2,000 in every transaction on a daily basis, and then $10,500 for existing customers. So trying to limit some of that. We also required fraud notices. So if you go to the machine and you're really panicking and you see that fraud notice, hopefully that will make someone stop and pause. If you feel like you're being a victim of fraud, the other part of the warning is how to get a hold of law enforcement.
Excellent.
Or who to contact to stop the transaction. It also requires fee charges and exchange rates, so if it is something that's going overseas, you understand what that exchange rate is. Receipts, so you also have a tracking mechanism of where that money might potentially have gone. And probably the biggest win for us was we really fought hard to ensure that refunds were given, especially if you're a new customer. Within 30 days, if you've identified that it's a fraudulent transaction, you can actually get all of your money back. Okay. So again, we have a lot more work to do on this, but it's a step forward in helping people and trying to stay ahead of the criminals that are out there that are using all these techniques to help people without becoming victims of fraud.
Gina, we can't thank you enough for all the effort that you continue to extend to ensure that people are protected. Are there any, in the short time we have remaining, are there any projects that you're working on in the coming year you think our viewers would like to hear about?
Sure. So for AARP Nebraska, again, we usually take big issues and work on them. Bigger swings with less things is kind of what we call it, just because we can make a bigger impact. But our 3 areas this year, and as we move forward, caregiving, which we've talked about, fraud, which we've been talking about, and then livable communities. And I know here in Lincoln alone, Lincoln is now becoming an age-friendly community. And so we're happy and excited to see Aging Partners doing that with the mayor, and rolling some of those things out. But working on affordable housing and transportation and walkable communities and neighborhoods. And really all of these things kind of tie together because those projects all help people age in place. And so when you have a strong livable community, you have a strong fraud prevention network, and you have a strong caregiving support system, it allows people to be safer at their home, while also bringing in programs and services and that kind of support. But the real ideal goal of all of that is to let people live how they want to, but also provide them those resources that they need to do that.
Absolutely. Gina, we just, and I know I've said this to you before, but it needs to be said again. Thank you for everything you have done in your own career, in your life, AARP Nebraska, to ensure that aging adults receive the support and the care, but also the advocacy that they so richly deserve. So Gina, thank you so much for being part of the program today. And to our viewers, remember, it's never too late to live and learn.